You won't believe your eyes. Terrifying footage from beyond the ice wall of Antarctica revealed. Antarctica is unique as it has no native land mammals, reptiles, or amphibians and lacks significant plant life. Yet, life still manages to thrive on this icy continent. Moreover, the frozen landscape preserves secrets, some dating back a million years. From seals with extraordinary senses to a monstrous bird, here are 20 bizarre things discovered frozen in Antarctica's ice. Number 20. Seals with sixth sense. Seals are cute and adorable. They're even known as the puppies of the ocean. While they look like they don't have a single thought behind their round black eyes, scientists recently discovered that they're far more skilled than we initially thought. Weddell seals are one of the few species known to be well adapted to the extreme conditions of the South Pole. They're capable of diving to depths of over 2,000 feet, and they can hold their breath for more than an hour. Aside from their incredible hunting skills, researchers noticed that these seals have an uncanny ability to find the breathing holes they need on the surface of the ice. How exactly they detect these holes remained a mystery until research supported by the National Science Foundation suggested a possible answer. It seems that Weddell seals have learned how to navigate using their sixth sense. Well, we call it a sixth sense, but it's more like they've evolved to sense the Earth's magnetic field. Basically speaking, these guys have achieved their own GPS. How cool is that? Being able to travel reliably from one breathing hole to another is vital to hunting, after all. Perhaps this so-called sixth sense was necessary for the seals to survive in such a competitive environment. Number 19. Burrowing ghost anemones. In 2010, scientists from the Antarctic Geological Drilling Program made an astonishing discovery. While using a camera-equipped robot to explore beneath the ice shelf, they found thousands of small sea anemones burrowed into the underside of the ice, their tentacles protruding into the frigid water like flowers on a ceiling. This was the first time anemones were found living within the ice itself rather than on the seafloor, which is their usual habitat. The burrowing ghost anemones are small, measuring less than an inch long when contracted but extending up to 4 times their size when relaxed. They have 20 to 24 tentacles, which they use to capture plankton and other tiny particles floating in the water. These anemones live upside down, clinging to the ice and creating burrows in the ice shelf's underside, a behavior previously unobserved in anemones. Scientists are particularly interested in how these creatures maintain their burrows in the ice, what they feed on, and how they cope with the extreme cold and darkness of their environment. To this day, we still don't know much about how these creatures adapt and survive. Researchers are planning further expeditions to study these anemones and other organisms living beneath the ice. Number 18. A sea nursery below the Weddell Sea. In early 2022, scientists exploring the depths of the Weddell Sea made an astonishing discovery. They found an immense breeding colony of icefish, a colony that spans a staggering 92 square miles, which is like the size of Malta. This expansive nursery contained about 60 million nests, each home to a pair of protective parents and thousands of developing eggs. Each nest in this underwater nursery was meticulously constructed by the adult icefish. They cleared a circular patch on the seafloor, about 75 centimeters in diameter, where they laid and guarded their eggs. This ensured a stable environment for their offspring, away from predators and ocean currents that could sweep the eggs away. This goes to show just how incredible icefish are. For one, they're among the creatures who have adapted to the frigid Antarctic waters. Thanks to their transparent blood devoid of hemoglobin, they have antifreeze proteins that prevent ice crystals from forming within their bodies. This allows them to thrive in temperatures that would be fatal to most other fish. With the Weddell Sea being one of the last untouched marine ecosystems on the planet, understanding its biodiversity is crucial for developing effective strategies to protect it. Number 17. Rare 17-pound meteorite. In 2023, an international team of researchers discovered 5 new meteorites, including one of the largest ever found on the continent. This 17-pound meteorite was about the size of a cantaloupe but significantly heavier due to its dense metal content. While its size was remarkable, it had a pretty ordinary composition, chondrite. This makes it the most common type of space rock. Even so, its discovery is particularly exciting because such large meteorites are incredibly rare. Only around 100 meteorites of similar size have been found in Antarctica, making this find a significant addition to our collection of extraterrestrial materials. If there's something abundant in Antarctica, it would be meteorites. It's not that there are more of them in the region, though. It's just that the vast white ice fields make the rocks stand out more. Moreover, the continent's dry, cold climate helps preserve these meteorites for thousands of years, providing scientists with pristine samples to study. The churning motion of glaciers can also re-expose meteorites that have been buried, making them easier to find on the surface. As ongoing expeditions are launched, Perhaps bigger and rarer meteorites will be found in the region. Number 16. Loneliest ATM in the world. I don't know about you, but it wasn't until recently that I discovered that there's an entire ATM in the South Pole. Yes, you heard that right. You see, Antarctica officially has no citizens. After all, Antarctica has neither citizenship nor government, but depending on the season, Antarctica receives between 1,000 to 5,000 people annually. This ATM is located at McMurdo Station, the largest research center in Antarctica. The machine is operated by Wells Fargo and dispenses US dollars. Out of the thousands of visitors, the McMurdo Station caters to about 200 people during the harsh winter months. That's when this lonely ATM comes in handy for scientists and support staff who might need some cash for the small store, post office, or bar at the station. The ATM isn't just sitting there on guard. Due to the extreme conditions and isolation, servicing it is no small feat. Every 2 years, technicians are flown in to maintain and update the machine. These technicians undergo rigorous psychological and physical evaluations to ensure they can handle the isolation and harsh environment, just in case they get stuck due to unpredictable weather. But what if the ATM breaks down between those visits? The staff at McMurdo Station are trained to handle basic repairs. Additionally, there's a second ATM on site that can be used for spare parts if necessary. Well, I guess it's true that money makes the world go round. Even in the most isolated places on Earth, money will still help you survive. Number 15. 1 million-year-old DNA. In 2019, scientists made an intriguing find by complete accident while surveying the seafloor. Researchers of the International Ocean Discovery Program in the Scotia Sea, north of mainland Antarctica, accidentally gathered genetic samples known as sedimentary ancient DNA, or cetDNA, up to 584 feet beneath the seafloor. This cetDNA includes genetic material from diatoms, a type of phytoplankton fundamental to marine food webs. Basically, these samples contain DNA from the past, specifically 1 million years ago. Until this discovery, the oldest cetDNA was a 650,000-year-old sample locked inside the Arctic permafrost. Perhaps as temperatures in the region continue to drop, we'll find older samples of DNA. This groundbreaking discovery pushes the boundaries of our understanding of the longevity and resilience of DNA, opening new pathways for studying Earth's ancient climate and ecosystems. The findings also highlight the potential for discovering even more ancient DNA in other unexplored parts of the world's seabeds, which could offer clues about the historical distribution of species and their adaptations to changing environments. By comparing ancient diatom DNA with modern samples, scientists can track evolutionary changes and better understand how these organisms have responded to climate shifts over millennia. This type of research is crucial for predicting how current climate change might affect marine life and subsequently global food webs. The accidental discovery underscores the importance of oceanic exploration and its potential to unveil secrets about our planet's past that are still buried beneath the ocean floor. Number 14. Endurance Shipwreck. Over a century ago, the North and South Poles were seen as uncharted territories, the final frontiers. Everyone was trying to explore new territories and land in the two frozen regions. Among them was the team of Sir Ernest Shackleton. On December 5, 1914, the Endurance set sail for South Georgia Island towards the Antarctic continent. The ship, designed to withstand the harsh polar conditions, carried 28 men, including Shackleton, scientists, and even a stowaway who became part of the crew. As they ventured deeper into the Weddell Sea, the ice became increasingly thick and treacherous. Try as they might, the Endurance was a lost cause. By January 1915, it was completely trapped in ice. The crew made valiant efforts to free the ship. They used picks and saws to try and break through the ice, but it was to no avail. The Endurance was firmly held in the grip of the ice, and as the Antarctic winter set in, the pressure began to crush the ship. For months, the crew lived aboard the trapped vessel, enduring the harsh conditions and hoping for a thaw that never came. By October 27, 1915, Shackleton made the difficult decision to abandon the ship as the ice crushed its hull, causing it to sink. Over a century after the ship sank, it was finally discovered using submersible crafts and detailed notes from the ship's captain, Frank Worsley. Researchers aboard the South African icebreaker SA Agulhas II pinpointed the wreck's location. Astonishingly, the cold Antarctic waters have preserved the wooden ship in remarkable condition, with the ship's name still visible on the stern. The expedition to find the Endurance was a $10 million project funded by an anonymous donor. Today, the Endurance is one of the most significant wrecks in the Antarctic waters. Number 13. Mysterious icebergs. In the vast icy expanse of Antarctica, a peculiar phenomenon has puzzled scientists and explorers. Mysterious green icebergs, also known as jade bergs, These emerald-hued giants stand out starkly against the typical white and blue of the frozen landscape. But what causes this striking green color? For years, the exact cause of these green icebergs remained a mystery. Initial theories suggested that the color might come from organic material or microscopic organisms trapped within the ice. However, it turned out that the answer was completely different. Researchers discovered that the green hue is neither organic material nor live organisms. Instead, it's due to iron oxides. Iron oxides, often found in rust, reflect red and orange light but absorb blue light, which results in a vivid green color when mixed with the ice. Now, you see, the distinctiveness of jade icebergs doesn't end with their color. Unlike other icebergs that simply melt into water, these green icebergs release iron into the ocean, which is a vital nutrient for phytoplankton. These tiny organisms form the base of the marine food web, supporting a diverse range of sea life. Now that we know about their composition, we've come to realize just how crucial these icebergs are to the ecosystems of the South Pole. Number 12. Fruit cake. Aside from whiskey, did you know there's fruit cake in the South Pole? However, it's not something a person can consume. Well, I guess one can sample it if they're brave enough. After all, this fruit cake dates back to the 1900s. In 2017, conservators from the Antarctic Heritage Trust discovered this unlikely artifact in a hut at Cape Adare. The fruit cake was found in a rusted tin wrapped in wax paper. It looked and smelled edible, but none of the researchers would take the risk of tasting it. I don't think anyone would. The extreme cold of Antarctica had acted like a natural freezer, preserving this high-fat, high-sugar treat that was likely meant to provide much-needed calories and comfort to Scott and his team during their grueling journey. Tragically, while this fruit cake was preserved in the hut, the team that left this treat behind faced a bitter fate. Speaking of fruit cake, does anyone know people who actually like this food? It seems to me that these cakes are just made to be given as a seasonal treat. Does anyone really crave these cakes? Let me know in the comments. Number 11. Tunnels as tall as the Eiffel Tower. In 2014, researchers from UK universities and the British Antarctic Survey made an astonishing find beneath the Filchneron ice shelf in West Antarctica. Using radar mounted on planes and satellite photos, they uncovered massive tunnels that stretch up to 820 feet in height. For reference, the Eiffel Tower is about 984 feet tall. Researchers discovered that there's water flowing beneath the ice that creates these vast channels. You see, before the discovery of these ice tunnels, researchers thought that water coming from melting ice or meltwater flowed evenly. It turned out, however, that water moves in concentrated channels, much like rivers beneath the ice. This new understanding shifts how we think about ice melt and its impact on our oceans. Number 10. Colossal Squid. The colossal squid isn't a mythical creature. In fact, researchers have put effort into tracing it. This massive invertebrate has the largest eyes of any animal on Earth, measuring up to 16 inches in diameter. Overall, it measures up to 46 feet, although some claim it to be bigger. The squid's most distinctive features are the sharp hooks on its tentacles, a feature that sets it apart from its relative, the giant squid, which only has suckers with small teeth. These hooks are perfect for catching and holding on to large prey such as the Patagonian toothfish. Another fascinating aspect is the squid's beak, the largest of any squid species. This powerful beak allows the colossal squid to tear large chunks from its prey, making it an effective ambush predator. And while it's monstrous, it avoids the surface of the ocean, choosing to thrive at depths of up to 7,200 feet. For this reason, it's rarely seen by humans. Its deep-sea habitat means it encounters very few natural predators, with sperm whales being one of the few capable of preying on it. Now here's a fun fact. Several sperm whales have been discovered bearing scars made by colossal squids. Despite being one of the largest marine predators, much about the colossal squid remains a mystery. Scientists believe it's a solitary creature that relies on stealth and surprise to catch its prey. However, direct observations are scarce, making it one of the ocean's most enigmatic inhabitants. That's why in recent years, researchers have launched expeditions just to learn more about these fascinating yet mysterious creatures. Unfortunately for us, sightings of them remain scarce. Number 9. Monster bird. In the warmer skies of Antarctica, giant birds with wingspans stretching up to 21 feet once ruled over what is now an icy expanse. These avian creatures were known as pelagornithids, one of the largest flying birds that have graced our skies. We've only known about their existence due to fossils discovered in the 1980s on Seymour Island near the Antarctic Peninsula. These creatures are like the birds we see today, except far more monstrous. Aside from their massive size, these birds also had toothed beaks. However, they don't have real teeth. Instead, they have what is called pseudoteeth. These were covered in keratin, the the same material found in human nails and animal horns, and helped these birds snag slippery prey like fish and squid from the ocean as they soared for potentially weeks at a time. These magnificent birds emerged shortly after the mass extinction event that wiped out the dinosaurs around 65 million years ago. Fossils from 50 million years ago reveal that these giants arose just as life was rebounding after the dinosaurs' demise. Imagine just how different the Antarctic ecosystem would be if these birds never went extinct. Number 8. Giant worms. Are you scared of creepy crawlies? Everything and anything that has more than 4 legs? You might think you'll be safe from these creatures on the barren landscape of Antarctica, but unfortunately, there are also nightmarish critters in the South Pole. Meet the Eulogisca gigantea, or the Antarctic scale worm. This creature can grow up to a foot in length with a segmented body. Aside from its size, its iridescent scales make it distinct from other species. These scales provide both protection and camouflage against the rocky seabed. Its body is elongated and flexible, allowing it to navigate through crevices and cracks in the underwater terrain. But the most striking feature is its head, equipped with powerful jaws and a mouth filled with sharp teeth. Truly a nightmarish creature. This worm is one of the few creatures that have grown to withstand the frigid climate in Antarctica, thanks to its strong muscular structure that prevents it from being swept away by powerful underwater currents. It can hunt in the rocky waters and survive. Number 7. The Santelmo. In 1819, the Spanish naval ship Santelmo braved the roaring waves of the Drake Passage with a crew of 644 men. The ship was determined to arrive in the Americas to reinforce Spanish colonies. The Santelmo was a formidable vessel, but even she was no match for the merciless Antarctic storms. In September 1819, she was last seen struggling against a powerful cyclone near the South Shetland Islands, a treacherous region at the edge of Antarctica. Soon after, the Santelmo disappeared, swallowed by the icy depths, her fate a mystery for over a century. It wasn't until 1960 that the remains of the Santelmo were found. Some traces of the wreck were discovered on Livingston Island in the South Shetland Islands. Among the wreckage were signs that pointed to the Santelmo. However, whether the debris was truly left behind by the Santelmo remains a question. If found, the wreck of the Spanish naval ship would be the earliest known shipwreck in Antarctic waters, possibly marking the first recorded presence of humans on the Antarctic continent. If the crew did manage to reach land before perishing, they would have been among the first humans to set foot on Antarctica, predating official recorded landings by several years. Unfortunately for us, despite extensive searches, no trace of this wreck has ever been found. Number 6. Antarctic Whiskey. In 2007, nearly a century after Shackleton's Nimrod expedition in 1907, explorers made a fascinating discovery under Shackleton's base at Cape Royds. They unearthed 5 crates encased in ice. These crates didn't contain normal supplies. Instead, 3 of the crates contained whiskey, not just any whiskey but McKinley's rare old Highland malt whiskey, and the other 2 housed brandy. Now, a quick disclaimer. While drinking alcohol might make you feel like your body is warmer, alcohol is actually a dominant cause of death in urban hypothermia. That pleasant feeling of warmth you get when you drink alcohol won't really prevent you from succumbing to the frigid temperature. It's likely that this crate of whiskey was meant to be a recreational or celebratory drink for the expedition team. The crates were meticulously excavated and transported to New Zealand, where conservators carefully thawed them in a specially designed environment. Inside, they found 11 bottles of perfectly preserved whiskey, still wrapped in their original paper and straw packaging. The whiskey was subjected to thorough analysis by experts at White and Mackay and the Scotch Whisky Research Institute. They recreated the century-old blend, giving whiskey enthusiasts a taste of history. The recreation, named McKinley's rare old Highland malt whiskey, became a sensation and even saw a second edition called The Journey released later due to its popularity. Now it's time for today's topic. The first ever footage from beyond the ice wall of Antarctica terrifies the whole world. The world is ever-changing, and with the ice in the South Pole slowly melting, researchers got the chance to capture this photo. Initially, there wasn't anything particularly remarkable in the photo, but when it was zoomed in, something in the vast landscape stood out. A creature that seemed to be trudging on the ice with 4 limbs and a tail. A reptile, an amphibian, or an unknown species. But how? There isn't any known creature that would even remotely resemble the animal captured in this photo. Could it be a creature that's yet to be identified? Is this a piece of rock that our minds are interpreting as an animal? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Number 5. Penguin Colony. In 2016, scientists on East Antarctica's Long Peninsula stumbled upon a chilling sight: hundreds of mummified Adelie penguins preserved in ice. Researchers quickly realized that an entire colony was wiped out, But the question was why. Researchers found that the penguins in the region perished during two significant events, one around 750 years ago and another about 200 years ago. These periods were marked by unusually heavy rain and snow. While adult penguins could have easily survived such conditions, chicks with downy feathers were highly susceptible to hypothermia. In excessively wet conditions, if exposed to too much moisture, they struggled to stay warm and ultimately perished. Radiocarbon dating of the mummified remains showed that the site had been a breeding ground for penguins for millennia, used intermittently, with the last significant occupation ending around 800 years ago, likely due to the onset of the Little Ice Age. Number 4. Livingston Island Chilean bones. Livingston Island is an Antarctic island in the Southern Ocean, part of the South Shetland archipelago. In the 1980s, a skull and a femur were discovered lying on its beach. The bones were identified as belonging to a young indigenous woman from Chile. This puzzled researchers. How did the bones of a young indigenous woman end up in such an inhospitable location? The answer turned out to be quite simple. In the 19th century, sealers from different parts of the world, including South America, frequented the Antarctic Peninsula and surrounding islands for the lucrative seal fur trade. It's believed that the bones might be linked to these early voyages. However, the exact circumstances of the woman's presence and death on Livingston Island remain unclear. Given the harsh conditions and the rudimentary equipment available at the time, survival was incredibly challenging. Many sealers faced extreme cold, scarce food supplies, and the constant threat of ice entrapment. It's possible that the young woman simply perished during the expedition. Number 3. Ancient frozen beetle. Though this mass might look like nothing, this frozen lump is actually one of the oldest fossils found in Antarctica. These preserved remains belong to Ball's Antarctic tundra beetle, a being that lived in the mid-Miocene epoch about 14 to 20 million years ago. Millions of years ago, Antarctica was a different place, teeming with life. The fossilized beetle was found in the Beardmore Glacier region. Although it's barren today, the beetle was found nestled among the remnants of southern beech trees, buttercups, and mosses, plants that thrived along the banks of ancient streams. This shows just how much the region flourished millions of years ago. The discovery of this fossil provides valuable insights into the climate and environmental conditions of ancient Antarctica, suggesting it once had a much warmer and more temperate climate than today. Such findings challenge our current understanding of the continent's ecological history and help scientists better predict future climate changes. The presence of such diverse flora and fauna, as evidenced by this fossil, indicates significant past shifts in global weather patterns and continental positions. Researchers continue to study these fossils to reconstruct the paleoecology and determine how these ancient organisms interacted with their environment. This beetle, in particular, serves as a crucial piece of the puzzle in understanding the evolutionary history of life in polar regions. Number 2. Centuries-old negatives. One of the most outstanding things ever found in Antarctica is a box containing photographic negatives preserved in a frozen block of ice for over a century. These negatives are now known as one of the greatest discoveries in the South Pole. The negatives were discovered by New Zealand's Antarctic Heritage Trust in an expedition hut from Captain Robert Falcon Scott. Unfortunately, the negatives tell a rather grim story. The photos were captured during Ernest Shackleton's Ross Sea Party on their 1912 quest to become the first men to reach the South Pole. Unfortunately, they failed in their endeavor. The Ross Sea Party suffered ill fates. The group of explorers found themselves stranded in Antarctica after their ship, the SY Aurora, broke free during a storm and drifted out to sea. With limited supplies and no means of communication, the 10 men endured nearly 2 years of isolation. Among them was the team's photographer, Arnold Patrick Spencer-Smith, who tragically passed away. All he was able to leave behind were the negatives that lay forgotten in the hut until they were rediscovered 100 years later. The preservation of the negatives is quite astonishing. The negatives were made of cellulose nitrate film, a material prone to degradation. However, the frigid conditions of Antarctica preserved them remarkably well, allowing them to survive intact for a century. Number 1. Yeti Crab. This bizarre creature is known as the Yeti Crab, and it's one of the most peculiar crab species in the world. It's the only species with hair-like bristles that are this long. These crabs live in the extreme environment of hydrothermal vents, where superheated water rich in minerals gushes out from the seafloor. These vents are located on the East Scotia Ridge in the Southern Ocean, a region that's otherwise incredibly cold. While the waters in this region are near freezing, these vents have scorching temperatures that can soar to over 400 degrees Celsius, creating a unique ecosystem that supports life forms found nowhere else on Earth. That's where the Yeti crabs come in handy. Aside from them, Another organism that somehow manages to thrive in this environment is bacteria. These microorganisms thrive in the crab's hair-like bristles. The crabs let them thrive and grow and eat them. Basically, these crabs have their own mini-farms on their claws. The bacteria thrive on the minerals found in the hydrothermal vent waters, converting them into nutrients through a process called chemosynthesis. This symbiotic relationship allows the Yeti crab to sustain itself in an environment where traditional food sources are scarce. Yeti crabs live in densely packed colonies around these vents, sometimes with more than 700 individuals per square meter. Trust me, although they're harmless to humans, you wouldn't want to see what they look like huddled together in the frigid waters. Which of these discoveries are you the most curious about? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, check out other cool stuff showing up on the screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video.